In this lesson, I want to explore a shorthand syntax for declaring multiple variables at once. In my Visual Basic Editor, I'm going to declare a procedure called moreVariableFun. And let's say in this procedure, I want to declare three variables: age, lottery number, and sheet count, and all three of them will be integers. The easiest way to do this is just to declare a different variable on every single line. So I can do something like dim age as integer. On the line below, I can do dim lottery number as integer. And finally, the same thing as sheet count. As a review, we always begin with the dim keyword for dimension to declare a variable. We follow it up with the actual variable name, like sheet count, followed by the as keyword, which allows us to declare a data type that variable will store. And finally, the actual data type itself, which again will be an integer. Now, this is completely valid VBA code. There's nothing technically wrong here. But as we can see, this takes up quite a bit of space. It takes up 3 lines of code. What we can actually do is simplify this a little bit by writing our code like this. I'm going to actually comment out the lines above so we don't run into any compiler issues. Right below, we write the dim keyword once at the very beginning. Then we write each variable declaration along with its type declaration. So dim age as integer. After each one, we put a comma to separate each variable type declaration. So age as integer, followed by a comma, then lottery number as integer, another comma, and then sheet count as integer. And that way, we can place multiple variable declarations on the very same line. They also do not need to be of the same data type. In this case, they coincidentally are, but you can have a declaration of an integer, and then a string, and then some other kind of data type on the same line. The only convenience here is that you can declare them all on a single line instead of having to split them up over more than one line. Now, there's one common mistake that beginners make whenever they're trying to emulate this syntax in their code. The syntax as it's shown here is completely valid. One dim keyword at the very beginning, followed by each variable and its type declared, separated by commas. However, many times people do this syntactical error whenever they're starting out. They write something like this: dim age, comma, lottery number, comma, sheet count as integer. This is a little bit deceptive because you would think that VBAs would figure out that we want all three of these variables to serve as integers. But what's actually going to happen here is that only sheet count is going to be declared as an integer type. Because age and lottery number are not given explicit data types, they're going to assume a data type of a variant. Now, we're going to dive into the variant data type later in this section, but essentially it's a catch-all data type. It's a chameleon data type that can essentially serve as anything: a number, a string, an object, anything. That sounds like it's a really good thing, and sometimes it can be, but it's also very inefficient. If a variable has to be able to represent any kind of data, it has to take up a lot more memory. So we want to avoid the variant data types, the default one, as much as we can to make sure that our program is as efficient and quick as possible. Whenever we don't give an explicit data type with the as keyword, VBA will assume that that variable will store a variant data type. And in this case, even though we think that age and lottery number will be represented by this integer syntax, this as integer syntax is only being applied to sheet count. So we have 2 variants being declared here and 1 integer being declared here. This syntax can be very dangerous and can make the program much more likely to run into error. So be very careful whenever you are declaring variables on one line. You have to remember to use this syntax. One thing I like to do is to declare all variables on a single line like this, and then start consolidating them into a single line. So just place a comma at the end, and then start deleting the dim keyword from the next line. And that way, if all you delete is the dim keyword, there's no way you can make a mistake because you're still going to keep each variable name and each variable declaration, which is critical. Okay, that's all there is to cover here. We talked about variable declarations, more than one at a time on a single line. That can help us save a lot of space and make our code better looking, more aesthetically pleasing.